Senator Heller.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thanks for holding this hearing. And Administrator, thank you for being here also. I want to talk a little bit about the Small Community Air Service Development Program. Everything's local, as you're probably well aware of, and I want to talk to you a little bit about Nevada. Let me start with some numbers. We have a 1997 study that determines whether you're a small hub, medium hub, large hub, or a major hub. And the concerns are, and I think these numbers will help you understand it. At the Reno Tahoe Airport in 1997, based on the 1997 study, 162,000 planes came in and left, 162,000. As of last year, 75,000. So we see a reduction of about 54%. In real numbers, in 96, based on the 97 study, there were over 3 million travelers. As of last year, it was 1.7 million. So you can see that an airport like Reno Tahoe has seen since 97 a major reduction. I guess the question is there any way to go from a medium hub to a small hub and take advantage of some of the grant programs that are available?
I'll have to get back and answer the question in more detail with respect to eligibility. This is actually a program that we don't administer at the FAA. It is administered in the Office of the Secretary, even though it's framed out in our authorization and included in our budget. I know that SCASDAP is a program that is very focused on where you're trying to get. How do you provide small and rural communities with grants that enable them to build air traffic? But in terms of how they move from one to the other, we can get back to you with a more specific answer.
Yeah, I'd like to know that. Would you have any problem with eliminating the 1997 requirements to go into a more up-to-date number system?
You know, it's I would have to get more familiar with how the program goes to really have a reasonable answer.
Tell you what, I'll send a letter to you and give you an opportunity to respond. As you know, international travel plays a vital role throughout America. Obviously, with a state like Nevada, Las Vegas, we're well aware that an international traveler spends probably 5 times more than a domestic traveler does when they come into a city like Las Vegas. I'm going to ask you a question, again, that maybe you have a little to do with, but I still want to get your feedback on it. One of the biggest complaints that we have is the visa process and entry process. I'm sure you're well aware of, and again, I know it's out of your purview to take care of this, but I was just wondering if there's a better way that the FAA can coordinate with TSA and some of these other custom agencies to resolve those kind of issues?
As it relates to how visas are granted, we're certainly open to having a conversation with our colleagues at Homeland of are there things that we might be able to be helpful with, for example, on the airport infrastructure side? Is there something about the design of a facility that would merit a quicker way to move people through the system when they visit? But as it relates to the original granting of a visa, that's something that is very much outside of our purview.
I'm well aware of that.
It would be much more on the airport side. If there are things they need from us, we'd like to hear about.
You can imagine every airport that comes in and sits down and talks to me, that's the biggest concerns and questions that they have. The ability to get people in and out, not only obviously Las Vegas, but New York, Orlando, Los Angeles, and every state that's represented here on this committee. Let me talk a little bit about the importance of travel. There's 150,000 Nevada jobs that are attributed to the travel industry, and obviously you play a major role in that. And we're not just talking Las Vegas. You got the Reno Tahoe area and places like Virginia City that are affected from it. It's about $17 billion in GDP just in the state of Nevada alone. So you can imagine how important this is to us. Just a basic question: what's the largest impediment to increasing capacity and reducing delays that we see in the airports today?
There is a great deal that we can do through better operation of the air traffic system, and that's what NextGen is really very focused on. But in certain areas, one of our largest challenges, particularly in older metropolitan areas, is constraints on the airport itself. No room to grow, no room to add runways. And so we can focus on everything that we can possibly do to get greater efficiency out of the infrastructure that we have, and we're very, very focused on doing that. But in certain instances, you do run into the limits of just the facility itself, and that is something that we have to continue to look at, and there are challenges in doing that. And particularly in large urban areas, many of our airports are older, and the metropolitan area has grown up around it. And so you have to deal with very complex land use and utilization questions that are difficult for local entities to deal with. I think that what we at the FAA can do is support where we see the demand growing, and we do, in an annual forecast, share what we see air traffic growing to look like. We work with our industry partners, and we want to support states and communities in figuring out how they can ensure that they have the necessary infrastructure.
Administrator, thank you. And to you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.